So Anthropic took something very special from all of us. Not just a random AI feature, they took Claude Fable 5. And if you used it even for few hours, you know this model is actually different. For the last few days, people were building faster and debugging better with this model. I was inside my SaaS app, patching through security issues, trying to fix the kind of problems that no other model was able to figure out. And then out of nowhere, I got this message, currently unavailable. And after that, Anthropic put out this statement. So according to Anthropic, the US government forced them to pull back Fable 5 because of national security concerns. The government's position is basically this. These models are now so powerful that access to them cannot be treated like access to a normal chatbot, especially if there is a possible way to bypass their safeguards. So these frontier models are becoming so capable that governments are now deciding who gets the intelligence and who doesn't. And that is the part that should make everyone pause. Because yesterday the question was, what can I build with Fable? But today the question is, what happens when the model you build your workflow around disappears overnight? While everyone is treating this like a glitch, it is actually a preview. A preview of something every single person using AI needs to understand. You do not own the thing that your work runs on. You rent it, and rent can be revoked. A model got pulled not because it broke, but because someone above you decided that you shouldn't have it. And it didn't matter who you were. It didn't matter if you paid for it. And it didn't even matter if you worked at Anthropic. The people who literally built Fable lost access to it. If the engineers who made the model can lose it overnight, what chances your workflow have? What chances does your startup have? You can build the most incredible system in the world, but if it runs on a model that you do not control, you don't have a business. So this was never really about Fable. It was about the fact that I built real leverage on top of something that I never actually owned. And the moment I understood that, I stopped asking how to get Fable back and I started asking a very different question. And that question started by throwing out the obvious one. Because when you lose a model like Fable, there's only one question everybody reaches for. And that one question is, okay, what's the next Fable? What do I switch to? What replaces it? What's the new best model? Because I'm not making the same mistake. The next Fable just sends you hunting for one more model to depend on. You will essentially have the same dependency and the same single point of failure. Instead, ask this. What Fable was actually doing for me? Well, it read my code and found what was quietly broken. It had a long, messy problem without ever losing the thread. It made real judgment calls instead of just generating text, and it caught its own mistakes before I caught them. So I realized that I was never really addicted to a model. I was addicted to a set of capabilities. And remember, a model can be banned, but a capability cannot. All the things that I mentioned, they already exist. They are just scattered now, spread across a dozen different models that no single order can ever shut it down. And that's where I found this. It's called Fusion. OpenRouter built this, and the simplest way to explain is this. Instead of betting everything on one model, you ask several models at once, and then a judge model decides what's actually true. If you see here, a handful of models when used together came extremely close to Fable at half the cost. I know it sounds like marketing nonsense because everything we have ever seen says one giant model should crush three smaller ones. So how is it even possible? Here's what actually happens when you use Fusion. So let's say you send one prompt, but instead of one model answering, a whole panel answers it at the same time. And every one of them can search the live web while they do it. And then a separate model called the judge reads every answer and it compares them. It finds where they all agree, and that becomes the stuff that you can actually trust. And it also finds what every single one of them missed. And then one final model takes the whole breakdown and writes the answer. So basically, multiple models argue on a question and then give you one answer that you can trust. So essentially, the magic was never just more models. The magic is the comparison. It's the step where something actually checks the work instead of simply trusting the first answer it sees. Let's see how to use it. It's pretty simple actually. If you ever made an API call before, you already know how to do this. Here's a normal request. The same that you would send to any AI model. Here's Fusion, except the model isn't the model. It's OpenRouter/Fusion. That one string alone gives you the default panel, but we don't want the default. We want the cheap and the most efficient one. So we add a small block down here. First, we tell it the plugin we are using, ID/Fusion. That part says, just turn the Fusion on. And this is the panel. These three models right here, each one answers the prompt on their own, and then they get compared against each other. And look at these models. These are cheap, efficient models. Gemini 3, Kimi 2.6 and DeepSeek V4. And by the way, these are the exact three models OpenRouter used in their benchmark, and they came within 1% of Fable. Also, there's one more line. It's called the judge. And this is the model that reads all the three answers, compares them, and writes the final one. We let Opus do that. And that's it. That is the whole setup. But here's what you need to know. Just like Fable, Fusion is not for everything. If you're writing a quick function or just asking a simple question, you don't really need a panel. One model is fine. But when the answer actually matters, when being wrong is expensive, that's when you stop trusting one voice and start making them argue. So while we don't have Fable anymore, we have something that they can't ban. At the start, I asked you something. What happens when the model you built everything on disappears overnight? Well, this is the answer. You make sure it was never just one model to begin with. If this helped you think differently about how we are using AI, subscribe because this is only going to get crazier from here. I'll see you in the next one.